This is BoomerLife on CL 650.
And we're back. This is BoomerLife on CL 650. And joining us in the studio today from the BC Seniors Living Association, our Executive Director, Marlene Williams, along with Board Member Alison Howard, and our Assessor, Lydia Miller. We're continuing our discussion on how to choose a retirement community. And so far in the first segment of the show, we've defined what a community is. We've started the conversation with that family member who needs to start looking for a new place to live. And we've talked about the importance of the environment, the location, a little bit about the price. Some of the other things that we need to talk about are some of the services that are offered in that new seniors community, like health services or recreational services. And
the fun stuff.
Oh, the fun and games department.
And then the yummy stuff.
And then the yummy stuff. Food. We can't forget about the food. So let's talk about the health services.
Well, before we talk about that, I think it's important to, no senior wants to move. They don't. I mean, we know that. They want to stay in their home as long as possible. So if you've opened up the conversation with them, and if you're trying to get them open to say, Mom or Dad, sooner or later, let's start thinking about, moving and getting you safe and secure. And they're all going to say no, because they do. No senior wants to move. They just don't. We probably are in the hardest industry. We are in, somebody, I think, Steve Moran from the Senior Housing Forum said, we are the only industry that is trying to sell something that nobody wants, because the seniors don't want to move in. And so it's our job to make it sound attractive. And so one of the ways that we kind of got my mother to come around was we sort of said to her, she was living alone, 85 years old. My father had passed away, and I said to her, Mom, it's 9 o'clock at night. You're living alone in the house, and the doorbell rings. What do? Well, I answer it. Well, Mom, it's dark outside. It's 9 o'clock. Why would you answer the door? Well, why wouldn't I? Seniors are so trusting. They're so trusting that they just do that. So that's a security measure for us.
Well, and that was life back then. Exactly. And this is life today, which is completely different.
Exactly. And so then we'd say to her, okay, well, Mom, how much do you see people? Well, what do you mean? You guys come for Sunday dinner. Okay. And the niece drops by maybe for an hour. Okay. And when I see Mrs. Munch next door all the time. Well, how often? Well, I wave over the fence to her. And so I sat down, I said, okay, let's add up all of the socialization that you're having with other people. And it ended up that in 7 days in a week, she was basically socially isolated by herself in her community for 6 of those. Mm-hmm. And we just said, Mom, there's so much more out there.
And this is not healthy.
And it's not healthy. And so one of the things that I think is a really great way to promote it is to say, as Allison said earlier, you can do everything you want to do or nothing. It's either way. And I think that's a big important part of the retirement communities is that it stops them from being socially isolated, because socially isolated can lead to depression, and depression can lead to not eating, and not eating can lead to bad nutrition, and then they're sick. And so I think that's one of the biggest points that some of the families have to focus on with their parents is the social isolation of the living alone in their home. That's one of the biggest things that we see, and even the federal government now is trying to come up with ways for seniors to not be so isolated in their homes, and our industry is a viable option for that.
Yeah, and the majority of them,
the
majority of the adult children, right? They just see as, oh, Mom's not eating. I just visited, 2 months ago, and I see the same food in the fridge.
She's had tea and toast every day for 7 days straight.
Exactly. The garbage is still sitting in the back compost area, so it's not healthy. It's definitely isolated, and it's very lonely for the senior, but they don't know any different now. And when the adult children,
they're stubborn and they're independent, but like you said, nobody wants to leave. So is there information that's accessible on your website on how to even have this conversation with your parents or with a family member in need? Where do we go? Where's our first step?
Well, there are companies out there that help in the transitioning of opening up the conversation and talking about, because probably the biggest, most, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, both of you, the biggest concern for a senior is the downsizing and leaving all their possessions.
It's overwhelming
because
for them.
They're leaving a 3 or 4 bedroom house to a 1-bedroom condo, and everything to them is precious. And so you have to get them to, what the downsizing, what we did was we said, okay, Mom, I want you to walk around the house and pick out everything you absolutely cannot live without.
We did that actually with my mother-in-law. We gave her sticky notes and said,
Exactly.
Yes.
but this was like a year, a year prior to her actually even thinking of moving.
Yeah.
But it was starting that conversation.
It opened the door.
It opened the door.
It opened the door, and that's what you do. And then, okay, that can maybe come or go in that. I don't really care. And then, okay, so what do you want to give to your family? And so then, well, I'd like that piece, Mom, and I'd like that piece. So that's kind of the way you start the conversation and get them used to the idea.
And I think it's important. I love what Marlene was just saying about starting the conversation, because how many times have we and our members heard, I wish I'd come here sooner? Because they come and they see, and it doesn't matter the community that you choose, whether you choose a minimal amount of recreation and social opportunities or a large amount. They come into our communities, they thrive, they feel better, they're connected, they're not worried with having to clean their home and do their sheets and do the grocery shopping. And they say, oh, I wish I'd come 5 years sooner, 3 years sooner, 2 years sooner. And that is important to start that conversation and to open the door. And we're not always the ones as the adult children to have that conversation. If I'm telling my mom something, I have no credibility. But if my brother or her financial advisor
Or
or
her
the neighbor
neighbor
next door starts to say, well, have you thought about this, or have you looked at that?
Yeah.
I mean, I think as adult daughters, we probably have the least amount of credibility, but the most amount of decision-making power, because in the end, it comes down to us to walk mom or dad through that process, or mom and dad through that process. So I think the earlier we start, the better outcomes everybody will have, because what we really don't want to happen for our community members is to come in when they really need it. So, that's the worst possible time to make a transition in life, is if you've had a fall, you've come out of the hospital, there's been some crisis in your life that's driven you to make that decision, and then you're scrambling. So, and I'm not saying that's doesn't happen and it's terrible if that does happen. That's part of the purpose why we're there.
So you're trying to get our seniors community to be more proactive, to take a look at their life today, what their life could be like next year if they've just found themselves suddenly single, like their spouse has died or has hospitalized or whatever, or if they've become ill, or try to do something before you're forced to make that decision.
It makes a huge difference for their quality of life and for the sense of security for the family members. And it is, as Marlene said, it is a bit of a sales job. We're selling something that people really, really need, but they don't know that they want it. And so, when we get into talking about what do you look for and how do you go through it, it really is by acclimatizing yourself to the environment and sort of dispelling some of the myths that it's a home, or I'm not old enough yet, or it looks like this, it looks like that. It really is not a nursing home, and we still have a great cohort of seniors and some of their family members as well think, oh, it's a nursing home. Some of the biggest objections we can get are from family members, when family members don't want them to go, I don't want my mom to go to a nursing home because all of a sudden mom is old, or all of a sudden dad's old and we're facing mortality issues. It's not a nursing home. It's congregate living.
Yes.
It's living in community. It's a different home.
It's independent living, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Independent living.
In the majority of families, 80% of the inquiries comes from the lady in the house, whether it's the daughter, whether it's the daughter-in-law, whether it's the niece, or the next door neighbor, granddaughter, whatever it might be. It's usually not the male in the family. So if John has mom and he's concerned about mom, it'll be wife Annie that goes to do all the research, go on the initial tours, and kind of like shortlist where is the best place that we can offer to mom, and then include mom in the decision-making process. Because the worst thing a community can do when you have the family there and you have the senior parent there is to dismiss the senior's opinions and to ask only the kids what they're looking for and what they want.
Well, it has to be the senior's decision, correct?
It does, and I think one of the things that I think everybody needs to take into consideration is the demographics of the people moving in the retirement community. They are from, the war, okay? And they've spent the majority of their life taking care of, number one, their kids, then their grandchildren, and probably later in life, more often than not, their husband, because the mortality rate of the husband is less than it is the wife. And so
and their aging parents.
Yes, and this person has now spent her whole life taking care of people. That was her sense of purpose. And so living in her own home by herself doesn't really give her much of a sense of purpose, except the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and whatever she does on her day-to-day. Moving into a retirement community affords the benefit of that person having a sense of purpose again, because they can get in there and say, oh, I love to play bridge. Gee, maybe I'll organize a bridge thing. And they can get involved in all kinds of activities, or they could even help another person that lives next door to them that maybe needs a little bit of help to go for a walk every day. And it gives them a sense of purpose to live in that congregate living where they can feel part of something again. And I really, truly believe that it helps the longevity of their lifespan, because when you have a sense of purpose, obviously you feel better.
Absolutely. And we were talking about how many people say we should have moved in sooner. Why didn't we move in sooner? Make that decision. As the assessor, I know, even from the other side of the equation, in marketing, that all the good operators and all our members, they do surveys of the residents. And they actually ask them that question. And one of the 97% of the surveys come back and say, I wish I'd moved in sooner. Why did you wait? It's like, there's no reason to wait.
They didn't know.
They just didn't know.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go there. They didn't. They couldn't see past the end of their nose. They couldn't see anything outside their immediate life,
or what they thought these communities were 20, 25 years ago. We've evolved a lot.
We don't have bars on the windows.
Nope.
We don't throw away the key.
But you do provide an incredible environment that is a community that covers everything from safety issues and security issues, recreation, fun and games, health services on site, great food, personal chefs in some cases, anything you could ever dream of for how you want to spend your later years.
We're giving them back options.
And safety doesn't necessarily mean that people have to be buzzed in or that they have to sign in at a reception desk. Safety may mean just that. It's just that, if they don't go down to breakfast, it's going to be noticed, because the table that they sit at or the people that they've made friends with are going to say, where's Mary? Why is Mary not here? And they're going to go to the front desk and they're going to say, have you seen Mary this morning? They're going to go, oh, we'll go check. And they'll go up and they'll check the room. And maybe Mary's just a little bit under the weather that day. So what it means is there's a whole camaraderie of people that are now that now care and look after this individual, just to make sure that where are they? Why aren't they here? It's almost like when you went to university, you lived in a frat and everybody took care of each other. Now you're a senior and live in almost like a little frat house again, and everybody's taking care of each other. So it's like almost the complete opposite end. And it's a really good thing, because it makes people feel that, they are safe in more ways than just the door's locked at night and no one can come in.
It's just that gentle eye, isn't it?
Yes.
It's so stealth. It's not like you actually know that people are there watching out for you, and there's this eye on you all the time. It's just those gentle reminders that there's somebody at the front door 24 hours a day in most of our communities, so people really can't get in and out. Nobody's going to knock on your door at 9 o'clock at night unless you've ordered room service, and if there is a greater health issue and or a slight emergency, there really, in most of our communities, there's a way of calling an emergency call, and somebody with some health services support will be there for you. And it's peace of mind. It really is just that sort of seamless behind the scenes care that you don't even know it's there until you need it. And then when you need it, it's right there.
It means you're not alone. It means you have a friend. It means that somebody is always there that's going to care about you. You're listening to Boomer Life on CL 650, and joining us in the studio today from the BC Seniors Living Association is the Executive Director, Marlene Williams, along with Board Member Alison Howard and Assessor Lydia Miller. Please take a moment to visit their website for more information, www.bcsla.ca. We're going to be right back with more great information on how to start the discussion with a family member about moving into a retirement community and some of the benefits of doing so. That's next on Boomer Life on CL 650.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.